Hello and welcome to Insider Track. We're back again. The transfer window really now picking up pace, isn't it? There's been so much happening and it's only going to get faster and more furious as well as time goes on. I'm joined by Pete today. Pete, how are you?
I'm very well, Fraser. Things, as you said, are picking up in the transfer window. So, yeah, we are working hard, trying to find out what deals are on the go as well. So, yeah, making lots of calls and trying to find out for everybody out there what players clubs are after. And as you said, Aston Villa have been one of the busier clubs so far in this window.
Yeah, and it is all things Aston Villa today. They obviously signed off a fantastic deal for Pau Torres. We'll talk about that. They've brought in Youri Tielemans as well. We'll talk about that. Potential players they're going to try to keep hold of, Pete, because some of their guys are obviously wanted by a number of clubs as well. And then we can talk about areas of the pitch that they're looking to potentially strengthen as well. Caffeine's key for us at this point because we are a bit non-stop, but we'll rattle through Villa this now. We'll have a chat. Make sure you like and subscribe before we do, though, so that you're up to date. We'll be here for the whole window talking about clubs as time goes on. So, Pete, let's talk about Pau Torres. That was obviously the news yesterday. We broke it exclusively in April that he was a main target for Unai Emery. He really, really wanted the move. Both parties wanted that move to happen. Torres was obviously keen for a reunion, wasn't he, with Emery as well. But what I want to ask is, Monchi's come in from Sevilla, and it feels like he's the guy that's come in and pushed this over the line in the end.
Yeah, obviously he's had a big direct influence over it. I think Monchi, he probably could prove to be Villa's best signing of this transfer window. He's such a shrewd operator, has had success wherever he's been. And again, I think he's one of the best transfer negotiators around right now as well. So yeah, that's a great addition for Villa going forward now. And it has been proven in this successful chase for Pau Torres, as you've mentioned, Fraser. He has been a long-term target for Villa. He's been Unai Emery's number one target since I think he went into Villa Park as well. So they've finally got their man, and they've got a good deal as well. £35 million, I think, for Spain internationals. Represents really good business from Aston Villa as well. 5-year contract is going to be for Torres as well at Villa Park. And I think he's got a player. He's a player with real proven pedigree. I think he'll be a real exciting signing for Aston Villa, and it's going to be intriguing to see how he copes with the Premier League as well. But I think Villa and Monchi have probably capitalised on Villarreal's need for money. That's why they've got him cheaper than his release clause, which I think was 60 million euros. So to get Pau Torres to 35 million, good business for Aston Villa, and I think a real astute signing from Unai Emery.
Yeah, £35 million for an international player. Good age, Pete, as well. Played Champions League, so obviously a semi-finalist in the Champions League with Villarreal. And it's a really good deal considering today's market. I mean, usually kind of his ilk, I know his contract didn't have long to go. Villarreal would try to sign him up, weren't they, to try and get him on a new deal as well. But for his ilk, I mean, it's a really good deal for Aston Villa. It's a really good piece of business. I mean, no signing's guaranteed. You said, let's see how he gets on in the Premier League. But he's certainly one of that you could hang more hopes on than others, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think, as you said, he's got a proven pedigree, played for Spain. He's played at the highest level for Villarreal as well, Champions League, Europa League, and playing in La Liga as well. So you'd think at that price, you don't get many top centre-halves for that value, and also left-sided as well. I think it's pretty key for that price as well. Obviously, we know how much in demand left-sided centre-halves are, and Pau Torres for the last couple of years has been one of the most in demand left-sided centre-halves. Has been big clubs chasing his signature. The likes of Manchester United and Tottenham have shown interest in him in the past, but it's Aston Villa who've actually gone ahead, got the deal done, and he's going to be an Aston Villa player come next season as well. So hats off to Villa and the recruitment team for getting this deal over the line. And as I said, for 35 million, he could prove to be a bargain if he does live up to expectations.
Yeah, certainly, absolutely. And like we said, key target for Villa. Another one in the door. He joins Youri Tielemans, who's joined from Leicester City as well, Pete, as well. Spoke about him previously. We'll just touch on it, though. Premier League player. He's obviously shown glimpses of how good he can be. I mean, the goal in the FA Cup final being a good example of that, for example. Belgium international and another one in the middle of the park. Another good signing. On a free as well.
Yeah, I think, again, another smart piece of business on paper by Aston Villa. Free transfer, so there's no outlay for Youri Tielemans. I'm sure he will be on good wages at Villa Park because a number of clubs were looking at the Belgian international this summer as a free agent as well. But Villa, again, have moved there and persuaded him to join the project that Unai Emery's got going on at Aston Villa right now as well. As you said, he should hit the ground running for Villa. He's got the Premier League experience, so it's not going to take him time to settle in as well. And just offers something different to that Villa midfield. can play in a variety of roles in that midfield. He could play as a deep line midfielder, or he can play further forward, getting into the box, scoring goals, which he's shown he can do for club and country in the past as well. So, yeah, it ticks a lot of boxes for me. Youri Tielemans, he probably for me was one of the best free agents around this summer as well, and Villa have beaten a number of clubs to his signature as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what Unai Emery's got planned for the Belgium, where he does see him probably producing his best football for Aston Villa as well, because he is a versatile midfielder as well. And as I said, I think he'll complement what they've got in that midfield already.
Yeah, well, we do know they're probably going to add at least another in the centre of the park. A number of names we could talk about. We'll get on to that. I'd like to talk about Coutinho though, Pete, because he's put up yesterday, a reel of him looking fit, looking sharp, ready to go for the season. There's obviously been some doubts over his future. He's had injury issues, hasn't he, as well, but it's not quite worked out. There was the reunion with Gerrard. It's not quite gone as he's planned. What do you think the plan is with Coutinho? As far as we know, getting him out the door could be quite difficult for Aston Villa, simply because of the wages on as well. So, what are you hearing about Coutinho at this point?
Yeah, obviously, I think for Philippe Coutinho, it's being fit and trying to show the best Philippe Coutinho, because he did struggle with injuries last season, and that didn't help his chances of breaking into Unai Emery's side. But I think Villa, from a business side, would probably think they would be happy to let Philippe Coutinho move on. He is on quite high wages there at Villa Park as well, so if they can save the money on him by offloading him, I think that could be maybe used for Unai Emery to strengthen the squad elsewhere as well. And I think Philippe Coutinho, if he's not going to be playing, he's not going to be happy sitting on the bench and not getting many minutes either. So I think there could be a mutual parting of the ways. I'm surprised there's not been maybe more Saudi interest in Philippe Coutinho, considering his CV and the clubs that he's played for. So that could be something that could be looked at. I think I could imagine if Philippe Coutinho is made available on the market this summer, that maybe some Saudi clubs would look at him as well. And there's also been talk of a possible return to his native Brazil as well. That was mentioned in January, but nothing came of it. So I'm sure that might be revisited as well this summer. So yeah, right now I think Philippe Coutinho, Aston Villa would be happy to let him move on, and I think the player himself would seriously consider a move to a new club. Yeah,
I think fitness will be key. I think they'll assess him when he comes in, a bit like Broja at Chelsea. He's another example of a guy that Pochettino, when he comes in, will assess his fitness and see how he is, and then they'll see what they do with him. And it feels a bit like the same for Coutinho right now, Pete, because he's had all these niggles last season, constant injuries. And you're right, if he's there and he turns up and does what we know he can do, then it certainly would be an asset for Aston Villa's squad, because they want to push on. They've made that clear. They don't want to stay where they are. They want to keep pushing that top 6, top 4 bracket. That's where they're kind of looking at. They're also going to look at Spain for more targets. We do know that. They've had a lot of recruitment work done out there. Let's talk about some of those, the wingers especially, isn't there? There's a young winger striker at Athletic Bilbao who we know that they are keen on. Why don't you give us a little bit more on that?
Yeah, he's been a target for Aston Villa for a while now, as well as several other Premier League clubs. Nico Williams from Athletic Bilbao, top player, Spanish international as well, and again has played at a very high level for Athletic Bilbao. Just seems that Villa might miss out on this signing, though. It does seem that he is inching closer to signing a new contract with Bilbao. So that will come as a blow to Unai Emery and the recruitment team at Aston Villa, because they had high hopes that maybe they could lure him to the Premier League, and he's such a talented player. He can play anywhere across the front line as well. So he would sort of help Unai Emery's squad options if he was to arrive at Villa Park. But it does seem that the player is sort of leaning towards staying at Bilbao as well. So it means Aston Villa might have to look elsewhere for that white forward.
And what about Jack Harrison as well? He's another one that's been touted with a move. Obviously, he's at Leeds United. They've gone down, been relegated. Everton obviously keen on Jack Harrison as well. But a good price tag on him, Pete, for the release clause he's got on him. A good well-experienced player as well. That's another one we do know that Villa have got on the list too.
Yeah, again, Premier League proven, I think, is the key here for Jack Harrison. I think he was one of Leeds' better performers last season, despite the relegation. So I think he would be on the list of a number of Premier League clubs, as you've said. Everton are very much interested in him as well. Obviously, Everton a bit hamstrung right now due to their finances. So if Aston Villa were to make a move for Jack Harrison, maybe they might have a clear pathway to move for the Leeds man. And I'm sure Leeds right now, ideally they would love to keep Jack Harrison, but I'm sure the player himself wants to return to the Premier League as well. And I think Jack Harrison will probably be one of a number of players who leaves Elland Road this summer as well. And I think Aston Villa could be a good landing spot for him as well, because they will offer him European football and competing for the top 6 next season as well. So I think it's a real exciting project for any prospective new signing.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. Absolutely. Wilfred Gnonto's one to watch out at Leeds as well. Number of Premier League clubs obviously like him. Very, very talented Italian player, still young too. I'd like to talk about James Ward-Prowse, Pete. Villa are in the mix for this for sure. A player they like, have looked at. He's also got a lot of interest. My understanding is it's still very early for James Ward-Prowse in this window, i.e. he's still on holiday, still taking a break. He's not majorly rushed for a decision because I think he has got 4 or 5 options at this point in time. We're expecting him to leave Southampton. Southampton themselves are almost expecting him to leave now as well. So that's kind of where we're at with him. But is that a player you could see working out for Aston Villa? Because it is one that's on the radar again.
Yeah, I think, again, he ticks a lot of boxes for what Aston Villa are trying to do. James Ward-Prowse has been a great servant to Southampton. He is the club captain there as well. So he would bring leadership and experience to Aston Villa if he was to make that move to Villa Park. But we all know what James Ward-Prowse brings to a team. It's his set pieces, his free kicks, so many goals, so many assists as well. So he's going to be valuable to any team, and that's why it's not just Aston Villa who are chasing his signature this summer as well. So Southampton obviously will be holding out for the highest offer they can for James Ward-Prowse as well, and he's that type of player who could take somebody like an Aston Villa to the next level with his goals and his assists as well. And I think Unai Emery would be somebody who would love to have him in his team as well because of the goals that he can provide from midfield, which is maybe something Villa have been criticised about before in the past, that maybe not scoring enough goals from midfield as well. But James Ward-Prowse would definitely go a long way to solving that problem as well. And I think right now you'll have a host of Premier League clubs ready to sign him this summer when they do firm up their interest in the England international as well. And the England international himself will be hoping to find a club where he can break back into that Gareth Southgate's plans going forward.
We'll speak about a player we spoke about previously, Pete. We're still waiting to clarify his future, and that is Hirving Lozano at Napoli, obviously coming into the kind of final years of his deal there. A lot of interest for him in Saudi as well. He's another one that's been touted with the move to Saudi too. Round Spain, more teams in Italy, and then obviously Villa have had a look at him as well. What can you tell us more about him?
Yeah, he's a player that Aston Villa are well aware of, somebody who is on their list. Hirving Lozano has been around Europe for quite a long time now. The Mexican international did really well at PSV Eindhoven and has done really well at Napoli, helping them win Serie A last season as well, and has played regularly in the Champions League as well. So he's a top quality player. As you said, I think Napoli are keen to keep hold of him, but if they were to lose him this summer, there's going to be a lot of interest in the Mexican as well. As you said, there's been interest from Saudi as well as other top clubs across Europe as well. So it could be a hard deal to do for Aston Villa, and it could be quite an expensive one as well. So as I said, he's on their list, but I think maybe elsewhere they're looking for better value.
And Harvey Barnes is another one. We know Villa want to add in this area of the pitch. This is why I'm talking about it. Harvey Barnes is another one. We know that West Ham are going to push for him. They'd really like Harvey Barnes at West Ham United. Obviously, they've just received, or about to, well, trying if they can sort out this structural talk. I don't think it's actually as dramatic maybe as some tweets are making out. It's literally just sorting out the structure of the payment for Declan Rice, which was obviously that £105 million fee. Unbelievable sums of money, isn't it, Pete, when you start looking at it now, that Arsenal spent, and West Ham are immediately going to spend that as soon as they've got it because David Moyes is waiting for it to strengthen his side. Harvey Barnes is a player they like. However, Aston Villa, could they be another team in for Harvey Barnes? We've seen some reports, not something I can confirm or deny, maybe yourself in the same situation, but he's another player with a lot of interest. I mean, that's the thing about Leicester's squad. We've seen Maddison go to Tottenham. Tielemans has joined Villa. They've got a lot of top players, don't they?
Yeah, as I said, Leicester are going to be picked off in this transfer market from their top players. Maddison's already gone, and Harvey Barnes will probably be the next to follow him out the door. As you've mentioned, Fraser, West Ham seem to be leading the chase for the winger right now as well. David Moyes is a huge fan of him as well, but I think Aston Villa are probably in there in the background seeing what happens with Harvey Barnes at Leicester. Again, he's a player who can play in a variety of positions across the front line as well, and a young English player as well. So it ticks a lot of boxes for any team right now who are trying to break into that top 6. So you've got Aston Villa and West Ham sort of around the same area trying to break into that top 4, top 6 as well. So they're going to be chasing the same types of players, and that's where they find themselves right now. But Aston Villa's owners in the past have shown if there is a player out there that the club want to sign and their manager wants, they will back them in the transfer market. So if it comes down to it, I think Aston Villa will be right in that mix for Harvey Barnes if they they do decide to firm up their interest.
One area of the pitch Aston Villa might need to add another number for sure. We know that they've been looking. We know they've looked at like Moussa Dembele, for example, Pete, who's obviously been looked at by Everton. We know he was a target. It was spoken to in January. Whether he was moving to a move to Villa, didn't seem that far to me from what I was hearing. But he was spoken to in January. Is that striker position? They've obviously got Ollie Watkins, who's been fantastic for them last season. But then they've got Duran, who's set to come in as well, the Colombian striker. He's there. But other than that, perhaps they would like to add a bit more strength in that area, Pete. Any names, any links that you could know of up front, or do you think that's just an area that maybe towards the end of the window, because the likes of a Dusan Vlahovic, who is going to leave Juventus, and other players could be coming, in my understanding, will be late August, even middle of August, before you start seeing moves for these guys?
Yeah, it's an area of the team I think that Unai Emery ideally would like to strengthen. They let Danny Ings go in January and obviously brought Duran in from the MLS, and he showed glimpses of what he could offer to Aston Villa with his brief cameo appearances in the second half of last season as well. So I would expect a lot more from him this coming season as well. But I do think Unai Emery, especially with more games for Aston Villa to be played next season in Europe, that they are going to need a bigger squad. So they'll definitely need cover for Ollie Watkins in case anything was to happen to him as well. Ferran Torres is a name that continually gets linked with Aston Villa, the former Manchester City man. He does seem to be surplus to requirements at Barcelona right now. Obviously, they're trying to raise money from departures to try and fund their own transfer plans as well. But it does seem Ferran Torres is in no rush to leave the Camp Nou right now. He is happy to stay there, even though the club are pretty much open to letting him move on just to get him off the wage bill and bring in much needed money from his sale. But yeah, he's a name that I think that we'll probably hear more and more during this transfer window as we get closer to the close of the window in August, that maybe Barcelona might try and force him out the door, and Aston Villa will be ready to try and sign him if they do get indication that he could be interested in a move to Villa Park.
Ferran Torres would take a bit of convincing, it sounds like, at this point, I think, to leave Barcelona, because he's so happy where he is. But Barcelona, as you said, Pete, certainly try to raise the money to bring their own targets in this window. So we'll wait and see what happens on that one. Another name like to watch towards the end of the window as time goes on. I think certainly when his options start to run out and perhaps Barcelona make it clear, then maybe we'll wait and see what happens on that front. Let's finish on their goalkeeper. We talk about Emi Martinez all the time, Pete, don't we? But he's constantly linked with a move away. He's going to this club, he's going to that club. My understanding from the Villa side of things is it would take a monumental bid to remove him from Aston Villa.
Yeah, I think Villa are well within the rights to ask for that monumental bid as well. He's a World Cup winner. He was so instrumental in Argentina's success as well. His stock is probably the highest it's been right now after his international heroics. And again, when he came back from the World Cup, he played a key role in Villa's surge up the Premier League table to finish in the European places as well. So Unai Emery wants a top goalkeeper, and I think he is a big fan of Emi Martinez right now as well. He knows how influential he is on the pitch and off the pitch as well. So I don't think Aston Villa are in any real rush to let him leave. And just looking at those potential clubs who could be interested in Emi Martinez, it does seem that maybe they have other goalkeepers lined up right now. Manchester United have been linked, but it seems they're going down the Onana route, while Chelsea have also been mentioned with Emi Martinez as well. Now Mendes left, but it does seem they're going to go maybe with Kepa to start as number one as well. So no massive rush from either of those clubs to try and sign Emi Martinez. And as I said, right now, I think Aston Villa are pretty relaxed about the situation, that all these other big clubs who were in the market for goalkeepers are maybe filling up those spaces right now as well. And they know that Emi Martinez is happy at Aston Villa, and if he was to leave, it was going to be a big offer, and it doesn't seem anything is in the offing right now.
Yeah, they've got European football. They've got a world-class goalkeeper who made probably one of the best saves you'll see in a World Cup, simply because of the scale of that. Kolo Muani, wasn't it, when he came out? And unbelievable save. And he's an unbelievable goalkeeper. And yeah, Chelsea not want to spend that much money on a goalkeeper. They do want one, but they're not going to spend what it would take to get him out. Man United pushing for Onana now. So these are the kind of clubs that were mentioned. Aston Villa fans can breathe a sigh of relief, I think. Emi Martinez likely to be your goalkeeper still next season, so you're all right. A long way to go, Pete. People start panicking that the club's not signed anyone. You've got 2 months. You're all right. There's plenty of time. But we'll be here for all of that. So thanks again, Pete, for joining me and talking all things Villa. Next time will be someone else. Make sure you like and subscribe so that you don't miss out. And we'll see you in the next one. Cheerio.